All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little Golden State Warrior video. Are the Warriors going to make a big move this summer? Do they have the assets to make a big move this summer? There's a rumor that's out there that's pretty interesting. We'll hit it next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video is brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the Warriors in this upcoming summer. The Warriors are in a tough spot. They're trying to, be relevant as far as they want to be a playoff contender. They want to be a title contender. They're trying to not waste the twilight years of Steph Curry's Hall of Fame career. But at the same time, it's an older team and they don't have assets. They had a pick in the top 5 and they wasted it on James Wiseman and then had to send him packing for Gary Payton II. And that hurt the team dramatically. If they had taken LaMelo Ball, they would be better off. If they had found a way to get Anthony Edwards or Tyrese Halliburton, they would have been better off. Instead, they drafted James Wiseman, and now they're in a really tough spot. They don't have a number 1 pick in this draft. They have a second-round pick. They've got a hugely expensive roster. They're hugged up over the salary cap. And the new CBA is more punitive than ever for those teams that exceed the salary cap and the luxury tax threshold. Teams that spend beyond that are now penalized dramatically. And it almost feels like the rules have been made to kind of slow down teams like the Golden State Warriors. So what are the Warriors going to do this offseason? The only player they have in the prime of their careers is Andrew Wiggins, and nobody seems like they want Andrew Wiggins. He's coming off a down year. You may have to include other assets just to get teams to take the financial commitment that the Warriors have made to Wiggins. So they have Wiggins in his prime. He's the only player in the prime of their career that they have that they could be willing to move. And yet he's not really worth a whole lot. Then they've got young players that other teams want. Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis, Moses Moody. They also have a couple first-round picks that they could probably throw back in a trade. Well, Bleacher Report is throwing out the idea that maybe the Utah Jazz are not going to be able to negotiate a long-term contract extension with Lauri Markkanen, and that they may wind up trading him this summer. And if so, they're saying the Warriors have enough assets for the Jazz to at least consider, the alternative of signing him would be to trade him for a package of assets. Now Bleacher Report's throwing out Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, and multiple first-round picks, and maybe some salary matching fodder as the bones of a real deal that would send that package to Utah for Lauri Markkanen coming back to the Warriors. Markkanen's a big guy who can shoot the ball. And, the Warriors obviously would love to have Lauri Markkanen, but are they willing to, basically deplete the rest of the roster to get him? Now, is Lauri Markkanen going to make the Warriors a dynasty? No. Is Lauri Markkanen somehow going to make the Warriors a title contender? I don't see that necessarily. I like the idea of trading for Lauri Markkanen more than some of the other options. I mean, look at the other options. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's old. Paul George. I mean, this guy's in his mid-30s. Almost every deal that's available for Golden State, has them looking at old players that, just going to make drive the franchise off the cliff in 2 years. So they either will get a title in the next couple of years with a Durant or a Paul George added to Steph, or if they miss out, they're going to be probably down for another 5 to 10 years. Now, here's Lauri Markkanen, who just turned 27 in May. He's quite a bit younger than Durant. He's quite a bit younger than Paul George. And if you traded for Markkanen, you have a young piece that that fans can come and watch whenever Steph Curry's done playing. And I'm sure the Warriors love the idea of, the 7-foot marksman Markkanen, combine that with Steph and Draymond, and maybe you'd have something. Markkanen averaged 23 points a game. He knocked down 55% of twos, 39% on threes. So, I mean, he's a talented guy. There's no question about it. The question is, are the Warriors, hell bent on making the most out of Curry's championship window? And then if you could get Markkanen, what would it cost you? And then what kind of team would you have? Would you have a title contending team if you could somehow trade for Markkanen? You don't have a first round pick. They're going to want your entire core of Kuminga and Pajemski, Moses Moody, maybe Trace Jackson Davis. You got a couple number ones that you can move. They're going to want all of it. They're going to want most of it for Markkanen. And I would just say, as much as I like Lauri Markkanen and as much as I feel like he's a nice fit, I wouldn't trade, Kuminga and Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis and Moody and multiple number ones all for Markkanen. I don't think that's worth it. Now, if you could get Markkanen straight up for Kuminga and a number one, I think I would do it. Kuminga and Moody, I think I would do it. But I don't want to move Kuminga, Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis all in one deal for Markkanen. So that's where the Warriors are at. If you look at this offseason, they have a second round pick. They don't have their own first, so they don't have a first round draft choice. They can sign 2 free agents, one to the mid-level, one to the mini mid-level. So maybe they can get a couple decent players there. They really don't have a lot to trade. They've got, Klay Thompson most likely walking away in free agency, totally unable to replace him. Do you move Draymond Green? If so, what do you get for Draymond? How does Steph feel about moving on from Draymond and Klay and maybe Wiggins? So the Warriors are absolutely at a fork in the road. They've had this great run. They've been a team that's won 4 rings. They found a way to win a ring post Durant by beating the Celtics in the finals and getting Curry that one more ring. And I just, I don't know that getting Curry another ring is even a possibility at this point. I don't know that there's a move out there that's going to put you on the level with Dallas or Minnesota or OKC or Denver or, the power, teams atop the Western Conference. Trading, all your assets for Lauri Markkanen, that's not getting it done. So I don't think I would do that. If I could trade Kuminga in a first and I could get Markkanen, I would do it. If I could trade Pajemski and Moses Moody in a couple of firsts and keep Kuminga, I think I would do that. I'm just not interested in Kuminga, Pajemski, Moses, Trace Jackson Davis, 2 number ones, all for 27-year-old Markkanen. Now, I love Markkanen, and I think he would be a great fit on the Warriors, but I don't think Markkanen added and those guys being subtracted, I don't think the net result is you're a title contender. So, do I like Lauri Markkanen? Yeah, I do. Would I like to have Lauri Markkanen on the Warriors? Yeah, I would. But is Lauri Markkanen, if you gutted all your youth and assets, is he enough to help you win a title this upcoming year with Steph Curry? No, he's not. And so it's probably not worth doing. So anyway, it's going to be interesting. That's the rumor that's out there, that the Warriors have interest in Lauri Markkanen. I love the idea. I don't think that the call, I think that's going to be cost prohibitive. And when after that deal's done, I think we're going to look up and say, hey, it's a nice team, decent team, but they're still like the 6 seed or 7 seed. They're not really a Western Conference title contender. So that's how I see that. I hope Golden State has more options than they appear to have. Right now, it doesn't look like they can do much. I mean, if they landed Baylor Shireman in round 2, okay, you got a nice shooter there. If you could trade for Markkanen, maybe add a shooter there. Maybe you could add a piece or two around the edges that could help get you into, the outskirts of title contention. But there's not that deal out there that just says, yeah, you make this deal and Steph Curry's got a great chance to win a ring. And yet, I like the idea of like a Markkanen or somebody younger, like a Brandon Ingram. I like that more than I like the idea of, trying to get LeBron. or trying to bring KD back, or trying to go for Paul George or one of these guys in their mid-30s. I just don't see that as being viable. But it may be that the Warriors don't really have a move or a series of moves that can be made that make them a title contender. And if that's the case, then it's, what do you do? What do you do? You can't trade Steph. There's no way they're going to trade him. The fans would revolt. But then at that point, you might want to say goodbye to Draymond Green and start to try to turn this thing over. It's going to be very interesting to watch what Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob cook up in the middle of July and trying to put this roster back together and trying to reopen the championship window for the future Hall of Famer Steph Curry. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, KRUEG, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check them out in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.